Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're doing really well on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. I am delighted to have today with our stories hosts, the wonderful Zana Morris. She is the founder of Strong Nutrients, and she is also a fellow Irish entrepreneur. So, hi guys, you're very welcome. We're just going to wait for Zana to join us. How are you doing? Lovely to see you guys. Hope you're all well. I hope the weather is lovely where you guys are also. So you are welcome. Happy Tuesday. We are just waiting for our stories hosts guest. Today is Zana Morris, who is the founder of a supplement brand called Strong Nutrients. Hi guys, you're very welcome. Just waiting for Zana to join us. Hi Lou, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Hi guys. Just waiting for Zana to join us. Welcome to Stories Hosts. You guys are all well. Hi. So just while we're waiting for Zana, just wanted to let you know that if you probably all know Zana very well, Zana is the wonderful founder of Strong Nutrients, and she is going to come today and tell us all about her amazing supplement brand. Not only that, all about her fitness, just all her amazing ethos in life. Okay, let's see. So, can't see Zana just yet. Zana, where are you? I hope you're all doing really well. Welcome to Stories Hosts, and I hope you all stick around to chat with myself and Zana. So let me just send Zana a little request. Hi guys, hope you're well. Hope I'm not frozen. Can somebody give me a little wave and let me know that? Nope, I can see people joining. So, hi guys, you're very welcome. We're just waiting for Zana Morris to give us a little request to join. Zana Morris is the founder of Strong Nutrients, and she is joining us today to tell us all about her brand. No. Afternoon, Unfold London. Thank you for joining us. So we're just waiting for Zana to send us a request to join. So let's see. Zana, are you around? Hi guys, lovely to meet you. Sorry for keeping you waiting. It's always the way when you're live. We're just waiting for Zana to join. I don't see you, Zana. If you're there, could you send me a request to join? Would be good. Hi guys, afternoon. Hope you're well. We are just waiting for the amazing Zana Morris, the founder of Strong Nutrients, to join us. So, hi guys, good afternoon. Hope the weather is really lovely where you are. So while we're waiting for Zana, here we are. She is here. Hi guys, you're very welcome. Hi Zana.
Hello, how are you?
I'm so well. I actually thought, okay, am I on my wrong account? Am I?
Apologies. I'm the one that went on the wrong account. I was there going, I'm clearly on the wrong one here.
Well,
So sorry.
it's always one or other of us, so it doesn't really matter. But you are really, really welcome. And thank you for joining us in Stories Hosts. As always, I just want to do a little introduction to you while you're here. And then, of course, I would love you to introduce yourself in your own words. But
Perfect.
as a lot of you may know, Zana Morris is a fellow Irish entrepreneur. But saying Irish, I sound Irish. She does not sound Irish whatsoever. She has 30 years of experience in nutrition and the fitness industry. And she is a recognized authority speaker in her field. Author of The High Fat Diet and founder of multiple award-winning boutique gyms, as well as your hugely successful brand, Strong Nutrients. Zana, you understand fitness, business, wider well-being, and you are an expert nutrition coach. And it is my honor to have you here with me today. So why don't you just introduce yourself to us in your own words?
Wow, I don't think I'd do it that well.
Well,
that's brilliant. I think we'll stop there.
Well, do you know what's really funny, Zana, is because when I have got to know you, I have then did a little bit of research, even though I've spoke to you numerous times, and then I was going, she didn't tell me that, she didn't tell me that. You do not blow your own trumpet, let me tell you.
Yes, well, it's like so many of these things. You're busy getting on with it, and you sort of forget. Oh yeah, actually, we did do that. I did do that en route. So yes, you've pretty much summed it up. I've been in this field, being the general health and, dare I say, sort of wellness field, most of my life, quite frankly. So it kicked off. I studied nutrition in my late teens. I studied yoga. I was kind of my job as I was at uni was literally teaching yoga, which paid much better than working in a bar or in a clothing shop. I went from that to running health stores, and from that I got into the personal training side. And it was around about that point I came across the various types of diets, the high fat diets and the style of training and the high intensity training. So all that was in sort of my mid-20s. Went a little bit to the US, got one or two more little qualifications over there, and came back to London. I was obviously in Ireland before I went to the US, but then came to London. And that was around about the point then that I kicked off with the training and the gyms and combining everything together. And shortly after that, after kicking off the gym, set up Strong Nutrients as well. So the last 20 years have been really revolved around the gyms, the training and the supplements effectively. Yeah. The last 3-4 years, obviously things have dramatically changed. So the presentation of it has changed. The core essence never changes. Yeah. It's essentially the same.
So tell me a little bit about Ireland. So what part of Ireland are you from? When did you leave? And did you study in Ireland, or did you study then when you left?
I studied in Ireland. So I am from Dundalk, just south of the border. So not a million miles away from you.
Not far at all.
Not very far at all. I studied in Trinity. I actually studied languages. But alongside it, I always laugh at this. I studied German, Spanish and Portuguese. And my father moved to the south of France and my sister married an Italian. I'm seriously, they never got the memo. From there, I went off to use these languages in Galway, where I ran a health store, much to, I think, my father's horror. I ran off to the west of Ireland with my great little bag of languages. And that's where I really got, I say that's where I really got into the supplements. Actually, that's not true at all. I was always into the supplements, always. That was something that really was sort of drummed into me. I encouraged, if you like, from when I was very young. So it was probably always inevitable I would steer back in that direction.
That passion and that desire then did that come from somebody in the family line, or how was that built into you at a young age?
Oh, my mum was brilliant when it came to this. So she really was absolutely fantastic. And was into supplements long before anybody was into supplements in Ireland, so to speak. She was researching them and reading them and getting all her capsules and tablets. And my first memory really of health stores, and I don't know if you remember, you still get a bit of it nowadays, but in those days when you walked into health stores, they smelled really weird because they
Yeah,
always had
yeah,
various herbs or spices or something in them. So I've got that memory of the smell of the health store, and just rows and rows and rows of jars, which to me were fascinating. I used to think, like, if you take this, what happens? It was like each little jar could sort of change your life, kind of thing. So I think it fascinated me, but it was very much from my mum. Apparently I had very poor circulation as a young child, and the doctors, you know, had blue fingers and everything else, and the doctors couldn't figure out what to do, and mum put me on vitamin E and solved it in one shot. And I mean, I was quite young, so there was a strong belief of that in my family, and I think from there it just all evolved. It's one of those,
yeah.
it's one of those areas that's a little bit limitless.
Yeah.
A bit like yours.
And it's true, I suppose, when you somebody introduces you to a lifestyle and you feed into those around you and the younger members of the family, etc. So what you do teach them, it does have a really positive effect for them in their life.
Yeah.
So I need to sort of break, there's so much I need to ask you. So I need to keep myself strict with time, but you founded award-winning private training clubs. And
Yes.
they are the Clock gyms, isn't that correct?
It was the library gym initially, and then the Clock gym was one of the more member style clubs part of it. Yes. And oh, that was, I mean, this is about stories, so I'll try and tell this story super fast. But I think my real desire to have a gym, I wouldn't have, if you'd asked me in my late 20s would I like a gym, I'd have looked at you and, well, not particularly. But my real desire, I think, came from when I was in my late teens. I was at university. I was visiting, and I used to attend this small little gym up in a place called Eccles Street, sort of off a side street opposite the Mater Hospital. Not the best area of Dublin, and it was sort of only about a 10-minute walk from university. And I remember one day, it was a wet, grey November day, you know, I'm walking in the evening, and I wasn't feeling particularly happy. I was about 19 or if that at the time. And I was feeling a little bit down in the dumps. And the lady, Patricia, who ran it, really cheery, just jumped up from the desk and said, "So how did that exam go yesterday?" And I kind of stopped and thought, oh, somebody's noticed me. And she even remembered I had an exam.
Oh my.
And that kind of changed me. And when I went to do gyms, in my mind, all I could think of is I want somewhere people want to be, where they feel comfortable being, where they don't walk into and think, oh my God, you know, I need to look like this or act like this or be that. I wanted something where people could walk in and, quite frankly, feel at home.
Yeah.
That was really that, and I think that's where that sprung from.
Yeah, and you know, even you saying the difference it makes when somebody actually recognizes you, and especially at that young age, it is incredibly positive and empowering.
Yeah.
What I love about the concept behind the gyms were these 15-minute bursts.
Yeah.
So we all grew up, well, I grew up in this mindset, okay, you need to go to the gym for 1 hour, 2 hours, even 4, 5, 6 times a week. And you, for me, it absolutely drains me. It really exhausts me. So for the idea of doing those 15-minute bursts of intensive training, you know, you do not need to slog it out of the gym for hours on end. Isn't that right?
Oh, you really don't. You really don't. In fact, if anything, it's the opposite. More is not more when it comes to exercise. And I don't know, well, I mean, I'm sure we could track back where that mentality came from, but it really doesn't give you a better result. The short blitzes have exactly the same, if not a better impact on the body than the longer drawn out sessions. Honestly, it trains the body into fat burning. You have all these release of hormones. It's stunning for muscle recovery, which as we get older becomes more and more important, not less. And obviously the obvious, you're saving time, but it's actually more effective, not less. That's what makes it so exciting. You're not just saving yourself 45 minutes. You're actually getting more out of it.
And do you know how I didn't know that you were a founder of this, but we probably have a mutual friend, Caroline Bryan. Do you know Caroline?
Yes.
Journalist.
Yes.
I remember sitting with her,
yes,
having a coffee in London, and she said to me, "I need to run because I'm going to the Clock gym." And I thought, what is that? She says, "Today's Arms Day," or, you know, Legs Day.
Yes.
sounds amazing. Like, you go one day and do your arms, one day do your legs, etc. So that whole idea, and also, you know, you talk about it on your website. It's the fitness is from rehabilitation. It's for all ages, all sizes, all different types of strengths. So it actually is a form of exercise for all ages. But
yeah, and I think
for us,
yeah, high intensity can be a scary couple of words for a lot of people. I think the most important thing to realize about high intensity, it's one of the first things we learned in yoga, is it's not a competition. In other words, it's what you can do for your body. So when we speak of high intensity, we're really saying what's intense for you. And from just with my background and experience, so my focus is always high intensity weight training. It was combining the weights with the intensity, hence you had the arms day, the legs day, and we had these great machines with proper weights that would actually, you know, you were doing proper weight training without the rest, targeting these muscle groups. That said, particularly when we hit towards our late 30s into our 40s, we can occasionally end up with slightly, you know, parts of the body working better than others is probably the best way to say it. And the goal, and it is so easy to correct, is just get those right muscles doing their job again, getting them supporting you, so that you can then get into more of a blitz again. But for example, if you've got shoulders that aren't great, there's nothing stopping you doing a blitz by using the lower half of the body. And in the same way, if you've knees that are out you, there's nothing stopping you doing the equivalent of press-ups to work the top end of the body. So you can get high intensity without having all the muscles working well. But for me, perfection is getting everything working well and then working everything so that it works synergistically. And it's functional. That's the term we used to use, and it sort of went out of fashion, was functional training. But it just means you're getting all the body stronger for everything else you do. So whether it's golf or tennis or just hill walking, that it's stronger for everything.
And I will go into a little bit more of the holistic approach, because you look at everything. You don't just go fitness, and it's not just nutrition. You look at everything. And I've had the wonderful experience of having a consultation with you. So I can talk from my own experience that it is an amazing way, and it's very unique and bespoke for each person. But I also love that you talk about forget weight loss. Weight loss can result in the loss of muscle, but focus on fat loss and focus on strength. And you're right to say, you know, it is very scary when we hear about strength training or HIIT training or high intensity, you know, especially, you know, when you hit 51 like me, you kind of think, am I going to be entering classes with all these 20-year-olds? I've had numerous surgeries, you know, problems over the years with health. But actually it has transformed my life. You know, I do in the morning before work, and it has really, my mental mindset has really adjusted, not my strength. So I love that when you know, we do the consultation and we did it together, that you focus on everything. So, you know, talk to me a little bit about the loss of muscle. What happens then about weight loss?
I mean, if we were to define aging in one phrase, it's the loss of muscle. And the fortunes that we spend on, in inverted commas, I don't like this phrase, but I'm just going to use it, anti-aging, is extraordinary. While at the same time, we seem to go out of our way to lose more by how we live and exercise. Because if you think about it, it's the loss of protein. So protein out of the collagen from the skin, muscle loss, the heart as a muscle, all of that side of it. And we are already losing, they estimate, it's about £0.5 pound a year from the age of 30. I'm sure it varies from individual to individual, but if we're losing about £0.5 pound a year between 30 and 50, we'll have lost potentially 10 pounds of muscle in that time, which is an extraordinary amount if you think about it. And that is not just coming, it's not a thigh or an arm that it's coming from. It will be in part, but we're talking about really lean body mass. It's bone density, it's heart, it's organs, it's everything, it's skin. The trouble with excess training is, and this is where I was saying at the beginning, where when you're doing too much, more is not always more. I think you get away with this for the most part when you're 23, but once you get towards sort of 43 and beyond, I would question whether you do. there's a lot of research that shows once you go beyond the 45 minutes, you start eating into more muscle tissue than your body can recover, just to keep you going. And now, as we're looking more and more into how the body works from a nutritional side of things in terms of burning sugar for fuel or fat for fuel, we've trained our bodies over the years to burn sugars for fuel. So when our body's under stress like this, when we're training, so many of us over decades, and I say so many of us, I would say most of the world's population, over decades and centuries, we've trained our bodies to rely very much on sugar. So when we train like this for too long, it's too hard for it to go into the fat stores. So it goes into the closest sugar equivalent, which is our glycogen and then our muscle stores. So translated, you train for too long, but there's not enough fuel in there. Your body starts driving into those muscles to break them down, to get the amino acids and to get the sugars to keep you training. So now your weight loss is muscle loss. And that's the exact same as taking a house and taking your bricks out of the house. It's just pointless. It's all the solid bit of your body you're beginning to lose. And it is accelerating aging, dare I say, if you're losing muscle. So the goal has got to be on strength. And on the complete flip side of this, I just think, and I think this, for me, I've hit a certain point in my life, a bit like you hit a certain age and you kind of look at things and realize it's interesting. And I think this is important in my profession. You look at women in this case, men too now, I have to be honest, but you know that you look at sort of women that you admire how they look. And I've noticed more and more that actually, when you're looking at elderly women, now that goes the same for men, just to be clear, but elderly women, you admire the ones that look strong.
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily admire the ones that look really, really, really slim.
And that is another thing that you really talk about is it's strength. It's not skinny. It's not. Yeah. And I have found the more I train and the more I get stronger, I mean, my clothes are having to get bigger in size because obviously I'm building the muscle. But I love the analogy about, you know, taking the bricks out of the house. And, you know, also that brings me into the whole supplement side because we're training and I have overtrained at times where I feel you go into like a real fight mode. And obviously wasn't giving my body enough nutrition and rest time as well. But so strong nutrients, you have founded this. Tell me, what was the concept and when did you launch Strong Nutrients?
We launched it, and it was myself and my partner at the time, launched it in 2013. I have to check that one because there are quite a few things happened over these years. There's a few gyms being opened at the same time. We launched in the middle of it. And originally there were two things in mind with it. On the one hand, for me, supplements and the whole supplement market at this point in time, it's changed. But at this point in time, when I kicked off Strong, it was just this mass of either health supplements in lots of tubs with lots of scientific names and nobody knew one from the other, or directed at, quite frankly, bodybuilders and male athletes. Yeah. And there seemed to be nothing in the middle. And to me and my background and everything I knew about the nutrition and the health supplements were about, I mean, if ever there was anything about beauty, it was health supplements. And training supplements. So it was two things really. It was to pull them into a place in the marketplace that actually made it simple to understand what they were, but also were recognized as almost beauty products rather than for lads in the gym training, so to speak. And just reposition it so that you're proud to put them on your bathroom shelf as opposed to hide them in a cupboard, embarrassed that you kind of had them there. And simplify it. There were certain ones when I worked in Galway in this health store that we used to recommend very regularly, that when I left the health store and, you know, I was in New York for a little while, in California for a little while, in London for longer, I noticed nobody was recommending them. That you go in and you could ask the question and either they didn't have an answer, or if they did, they direct you in a completely different way. And once I kicked off the gyms, I was like, no, these are supplements that matter. They make a difference. They count. And the easiest way was to pull them all together.
Amazing. And also I love what you talk about. It's all about stress. It's all about brain health. It's all about your muscle toning, your strength, hormones, everything. And that's where that fantastic holistic approach comes with you. It's not achieving something rapidly. It's something that you're going to have long lasting results, and it's your lifestyle as well. And I mentioned earlier that I've started this journey with you as well, and I had my consultation with you, and I honestly felt it was like a counseling session. It was amazing because you don't just look at what I need or I want, you take history, you take everything that I've been going through, and actually highlighted to me areas in my life, situations in my life, grief, loss, all that was having a really adverse reaction to my. So you then have prescribed for me and for my situation supplements that are going to support everything from all the illnesses I've had in the past, all the, different things, but my age, grief, loss, all that. So explain a little bit about the consultation and why is it so important to have that one-to-one conversation with your clients?
Well, there's a couple of ways of answering that one. I mean, one is there's so many supplements out there, and if you're not low in them, you could take them, very unlikely to do you any harm whatsoever, but may not make any difference at all. But oh my gosh, if you need them, they can change your life. And it's really that simple. And that's why I think over the years it's changed a little now, but over the decades, the press on supplements has been so varied. Okay, yes, you can get poor quality supplements and ones that aren't very strong, but in other cases, if you're not low in it, you may not notice any difference. So it's really good to kind of get a sense of what you might be low in. And I, in my mind, simplify it. And I honestly, the body is extraordinary and extraordinarily more complex than what I've simplified it down to, being honest. But I have found this works incredibly well. Stress has such an incredible impact on the body, and our adrenal glands and that whole adrenal functioning and the cortisol and how all of that works to sustain us when we're under stress, that whole fight or flight, the knock-on effect it has in shape. And bear in mind, most people are coming to me for shape. It's quite massive, and it's all very well just saying, right, I'm just going to stop eating. But if your body, for example, was producing a lot of cortisol, and that's due to a huge event, and it may not even be due to a huge event, it might be due to a small event that never goes away. It could be just an ongoing continuous stress. That cortisol is designed to keep, basically to keep getting blood sugar into your bloodstream to give you the necessary energy to fight the attacker, if you like, or to run from it. A bit like short, high intensity training. You've got to fight, you've got to run. That's fine if it's for a day or two. It's not fine if it's a massive event, and this is going over months and even in some cases years. Indirectly what happens, and this is the really fast version, lots of things happen in between, but the really fast version is we lose muscle, we become more insulin resistant, the body's producing more insulin to deal with the sugar, we start putting on fat, in particular around the middle, and we can become very inflammatory. So it means we can start getting kind of niggles and aches and pains just flaring up. If you think of stress, and originally stress used to be associated with that stomach ulcers, the acidity of it. We don't really think of that as much anymore, but it's almost, there's so many knock-on things. And to get into shape, it is so much about getting our bodies back into balance. The body does the rest.
Yes.
And simply starving it isn't going to help the body. It's going to make it worse and throw it well out of balance.
I know. And then people think when they need to lose weight, what you do, stop eating, but that's actually having an adverse reaction. And then if we don't deal with the stresses and help our bodies react with the stress, and that all that's going on in the background, we do comfort eat. So that's what comfort eating comes from. Is that right? Where you?
Yes. So one of the things that happens with all of the stress, so stress really, that whole fight or flight, it's designed, as I said, to get sugar into the bloodstream and loads of other things so that you are ready. You're up for it. You can fight it, or you can run. Now that sugar, if it's not used up, which if you've got long drawn out stress and you're not doing any activity to actually soak it up, you're just sitting at a desk sort of swearing at your computer type of thing, then that sugar has to get out of the bloodstream because it's essentially poisonous if it sits in there. So the body releases insulin to get it out. Over time, the body releases too much insulin. On the one hand, sugar can end up just being fat around the belly. But the second hormone that comes straight in after the insulin is one called ghrelin, which sounds a bit like gremlin. And that's the one that makes you crave. Okay. So that's when you start craving the sweets and the sugars and things just to make up for, you know, just that comfort eating, that need for.
Yeah.
Because you've just had a sugar high and low. Even if you haven't eaten the sugar, you could be on the perfect plan, but you had a sugar high and low. So now you're going straight to the cupboard to comfort eat.
Yeah. Amazing, honestly. And I think giving people this knowledge is half the battle, isn't it? And that leads me into nutrition, because that's another aspect that you really focus on as well. So you've got your fitness, the supplements, and nutrition. And nutrition, you say it's not rocket science, but it is science. And you talk a lot about intermittent fasting. And again, it is something that I was introduced to over this last while, and I'm not hugely strict on it, but I definitely have found my window, so to speak, that I'm really comfortable in. But that, when you talk about insulin, that's been renowned to actually help with the insulin, isn't it? Intermittent.
Yes. So there's three things that happen when we hit sort of our mid-30s onwards, and trust me, this could be going on earlier, but certainly mid-30s onwards. Usually levels of stress are going up and up, which affects insulin. And that perimenopause going into menopause, as estrogen levels drop, can make us more insulin resistant. So that doesn't help as well. And then we've probably had a few decades too many of not quite eating the right food. So we're sort of hitting that insulin bar. We're pushing that threshold up more and more. So we do all become, okay, I probably shouldn't say we all become, but it's very likely that we can become a bit more insulin resistant from that phase onwards. So if you can do anything at all to help get that sensitivity back so that it's much more balanced, everything you can do really helps. And intermittent fasting is fantastic for it. It really is. It does train the body gently back into burning fat as a fuel rather than sugar as a fuel. The longer fasts, even better again, but I'm not one that outwardly recommends that, because I think that takes a bit more focus. Whereas the intermittent fasting from the night to the next day is such an easy thing to actually draw in. The only thing I will say with that intermittent fasting, though, is it's hard to do if you're on very strict low-fat diets. Or low protein diets, or very high carbohydrate diets. And it's much easier to do if you can change the nutrition around a bit as well, so that your insulin is more steady during the day too.
So turning things on the head, what we've all been taught as we've been growing up, it's the low fat products, it's a low fat diet, but actually you talk about a high fat diet. And what way does the high fat diet work better for your body when you're fasting?
Well, I'll do a very quick history of this, very quick run through. There's many that would argue we evolved burning fat as the primary fuel source. And there's this big term running around now called metabolic flexibility, which is the capacity to switch from burning sugars as a fuel into burning fat as a fuel. And the general argument is we were designed to do that. The trouble is, over the last, I'm going to say a few hundred years, never mind a few decades, we've done a really good job of training ourselves to burn fat as a fuel only. Sugar as a fuel only, the fat not at all. Trouble is about burning sugar as a fuel. If you ever end up in a position where you've got weight on that you cannot shift, even when you stop eating, it's very likely not because your metabolism has stopped. I hear that expression a lot. The metabolism is just how your body accesses this fuel and converts it to energy. But it's very likely because your body isn't able to burn fat as a fuel. It's burning sugars all the time. So when you stop eating, it can access the fat. In fact, it'll just go to your muscle stores, because that's an easier way to access more sugars. So that's why suddenly stopping eating really doesn't help. High fat diets do two things. There is only one food group. So you've got your proteins, you've got your carbohydrates, and you've got your fats. There's only one food group that does not cause your body to release insulin. So sugars, we all know, you get the spike. Protein, your fish, your meat, chickpeas, lentils, they will break down into amino acids, which are the building blocks, and sugars. So they will cause a little bit of a spike. Fat is zero. So fat is the only food group that you have a lovely flat line of insulin. It doesn't go up at all. So the first thing a high fat diet does, it's like an ultra low glycemic plan. It flatlines insulin. And the second thing then it does is it trains your body to drive into fat stores, because you're depriving it of sugar stores. So it's really important to say a high fat diet isn't just throw the fat in and keep the sugars and carbs in. You're reducing the carbs right down. So the body has to figure out, hang on a second, and it drives it into fat stores. And once it does that, if you have fat on your frame, if you have a little bit of fat to lose, it can drive into those fat stores as well. So you lose fat really quickly. So the high fat, it's great for energy as well. Just to say, advertisement for fat.
Yeah.
Fat has 9 calories per gram, and we've been trained to believe that's a negative.
Yeah.
That's like saying what's in a bulb or a negative. You know, it's energy. It's your vibrancy.
Yeah.
9 calories as opposed to the 4 in a gram of sugar. Translated, you get twice as much energy from a high fat plan than you do from a sugar-based one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And everything you're saying, I'm going, oh my gosh, yes, because I've experienced so much. I remember a couple of years ago, I had too many margaritas over a holiday period and literally did put on, not a humongous lot of weight, but I did for the very first time try the keto and the high fat, and I really stuck to it. And I mean, I kind of hit a slump after the first 5 days, and then this energy just peaked.
Yes.
And
it's almost euphoria.
It's really,
yeah.
You're fighting against, again, everything that you've been taught. Fat's going to damage your body, your cholesterol, etc. But actually, I felt very more attuned for work, for, you know, situations. So I mean, there's so much out there, Zana, in terms of, you know, the keto, the intermittent fasting, eating little and often. But smart nutrition, as it is science.
There's a science behind it, yeah.
And you talk about that. So if anybody, you know, we've got great followers here at the moment, and if it's new to everybody, you know, where would you tell them to start? Because again, it's not doing it all at once. It's just starting somewhere small, seeing the really powerful effects that it's having, and then moving on. So how would you suggest that somebody would start?
The simplest way is, I've sort of got probably 3 little rules that I would always look to start with. Depending on where your starting point is. First is, if you can train yourself to have meals that don't have the carbs in it, like, and when I say carbs, I'm not talking about vegetables, they're carbs too, I'm not talking about them. Fruit, I'm talking about a little bit, but cautiously. But I am talking about the breads, the rice, the pasta, where we've become very dependent of those in each meal. So it is to start reducing those and not be afraid of getting the olive oil, the avocados, the nuts back in, and start, and again, depending on whether you do have dairy, but cheese, those kind of ones, not being afraid to pop them in. But in terms of other little rules, breakfast it's the most important meal of the day, not because it's the most important to have, but because it's the most important one to get right. If you spike your insulin in the morning, it's very hard to get it back down.
Yes.
So it's no good having a terrible breakfast and a really good evening meal, because actually the damage was done at the breakfast. So dare I say, the cereal in the morning or the toast and running in the morning really needs to be out, I think. First meal should be protein or protein and fat based. And that's not saying I'm against fruit, but things like natural yogurt, Greek yogurts with berries, doesn't even have to be the full fat Greek. You don't have to go all to town on this, but have a bit of fat in there. I love, like, Io Valley, just natural yogurt, you know, just their simple natural one. You can put some nuts in there, some berries in there. Eggs are great. Eggs and avocado, fantastic way to start a day. And that keeps the insulin lovely and steady. You won't get a dip at 11. You won't get the energy drop. You won't get the craving, the need for something else kind of just down the road an hour or two later. Actually, the one thing I do love, and sorry, I am plugging you, but actually it's genuinely what I do. I love the protein shake, the Casein Protein shake. And actually I found that really good as a kickoff, because it's just protein. And then I blend it with yogurt or almond milk or something like that. So the first is get the breakfast right, get the carbs and the sugars out of it. Second, I would say, is just mind the gaps. The trouble is, but our little the snacks in between, and I say cautiously, being Irish, and we grew up with a cup of tea and milk in our hand, at least I did. And if it wasn't in my hand, it was just beside me. And I didn't even have to finish the cup before the next one was made. It was a constant. The trouble with you will. The trouble with the splash of milk constantly, or just that little snack or that little piece of fruit, is your body's never getting a chance to reset. So if you've had, say, a piece of toast at breakfast, and then you're having a piece of fruit 2 hours later, and then you're having a lunch, and then you're just grabbing your passing fridge and grab, you may not be eating a lot, but there's a little bit of an insulin spike, another little spike, another little spike, another little spike. So your insulin's just going up and up and up. And so your body's now going into fat store mode, if you like. And that gap is where everything happens. It's like the training, train hard and stop, eat and stop, because your body is this extraordinary piece of equipment, if you like, that so much is happening in that space in between. And that's when it's got the chance to digest it, break it down, get the nutrients out of it, eliminate it, and the hormones go back to where they're supposed to be before the next one, and then they get released again. So breakfast right, don't snack.
So that's nutrition. Start off with your breakfast first. Supplements. Your supplements are amazing, and you've cut out all the jargon. You have simplified everything. You don't have 10,000 different supplements to choose from, but you have ones that work and are made correctly. And so where would somebody start with the supplements?
My favorites. Now, I've deliberately whittled down. We had more products on this brand when we kicked off, and I deliberately whittled it down because I want to really pull out the ones that I think will have the biggest impact in the shortest time, covering the most areas as you wish. So there's really not many in the range deliberately. There's more I'll probably add in as we go, but right now I've kept it as simple as I could. My two personal favorites, and even though my background is the gym and the training and strength and muscle, my two personal favorites are actually the chill pill and the magnesium. They're my two personal favorites.
Which I started, and I am loving.
So the chill pill is the one that it's vitamin B5 and supports the adrenals. Really, really good for getting them functioning well. You relax better, you sleep better, mood goes up, energy levels can go up. But I really notice the difference on that, both with my sleep, but also just generally. And I know the way a lot of people describe it is if they're flying off the handle more than they know they really should type of sensation. It's that kind of goes. Everything sort of calms because you're gently just getting the adrenals, I'm going to say back in their box, back to where they're supposed to be. And magnesium, oh my God, magnesium does so much in the body, so many things. As a woman, and as a woman of a certain age, one of the things it does over 300, just to say, so this covers everything, but one of the things it does, and one of the big ones it does, it's involved with the process that helps us break down and eliminate used estrogen, which is imperative when we get to a certain point. I mean, it's imperative anyway, but particularly at a certain point in life. Keeping that hormonal balance is huge, but it is involved in so many other processes, the nerve functioning, the muscle functioning, involved with what they call ATP, which is our energy cycle. It's got so many functions in the body. It's great for sleep. It helps prevent your post-training soreness and muscle cramps. It helps absorb calcium into the body, which again becomes more important as we get older, as we all know. So they're my two. But I think the main reason I love them is because actually I feel the difference when I take them. My sleep is better. I'm calmer. Everything's just that bit better. I notice it. So if you're coming in from that side, that's the two I'd go for. From a training side.
Yes, my next question.
From a training side, right. And again, I have all these here. I could bring you around and I could show you my little sections of what I've got. The creatine is extraordinary. Creatine I love. It's a little rebel supplement that when I kicked off in the gyms and I was selling it to clients, anyone who knew of it was kind of horrified because they were like, hang on a second, is this not a steroid? Creatine, it's so good. It has a dramatic effect on the body that when people first started using it in the athletic world, they were slightly concerned because it was the first product, natural product that actually had an impact. And I don't mean a herb, I mean a food. We get it in fish and meat, our body produces it. And creatine is essential for basically what we call an ATP cycle, which is ATP is like little energy molecules effectively. So when you do your high intensity training, it's ATP that gets you through it. But our brains also rely on ATP, particularly as we move through perimenopause into menopause and beyond. So there's a reliance on these little energy molecules, and we cannot produce it without creatine. And we get our creatine from fish or meat. And nowadays, as we're all leaning towards lower fish, particularly lower meat diets, we're likely to be kind of reducing our supplies. And the difference you feel, you asked at the beginning about what to do, you know, high intensity, it's a scary word. And where would somebody begin if they've never kind of done it before? Creatine gives you stamina and strength as if you've been training. You suddenly, you recover much better. You'll feel it. You know, so you can just go for longer. So stunning way to begin, particularly if you're beginning any training program, but even if you're not, and it helps that muscle recovery, which is so important as we get older. And then very briefly, obviously I can keep talking, so I'll stop.
I am so interested, and I know nobody has shifted off since you started talking. Everybody has remained and is listening and interested. So absolutely.
Well, my other favorite is the casein protein. Now, casein, I have to explain why I sell it, because I've been asked so many times to sell a vegan or a vegetarian protein. And the main reason I haven't is not because I'm against vegetarian or vegan proteins. I'm really not. But I loved finding the supplements that were harder to locate and gave the biggest, excuse the expression, but sort of bang for their buck, the greatest impact, the ones you noticed quickly. And casein used to be notoriously hard to get as a supplement. It's getting slightly easier. The reason it was so hard was because, particularly going back 10 years ago, everything you got was whey, everything. If you look at the process of making whey and casein and the good old fashioned version of curds and whey, when we're making our cheese and the likes, the whey was the byproduct, and they used to feed the livestock. So they had so much whey that was just excess. So great to kind of, let's dry it out and let's sell it. The casein was the expensive stuff that went into the cheese and the yogurt and everything else. And that's, to me, the product that makes the difference. From muscle tone, it's really slow release. You stay fuller for so much longer. You notice a difference on it. Really highly absorbed from a protein. Now, it's not a vegan form, unfortunately, but it is vegetarian. So depending on which direction you're leaning towards. But gosh, you notice a difference. And if you're trying to up your protein, it's such an easy way to do it, but you do stay fuller for much longer on it. Whereas I found in the other shakes, it wasn't quite the same. I used to notice in the gyms, if I was trying to, because we used to do these calipers and body fat percentages, often to watch for the muscle rather than the fat. And make sure people were increasing muscle, or at the very least holding on to muscle as they drop the fat. And if I put somebody on the casein, I wouldn't have to change anything else. I could guarantee within about 2 weeks we'd be recording an increase in muscle without changing anything else. The body just seems to soak it up. It's such a good form of it. So they're my two.
And very quickly, on terms of you know, fitness, it's the high intensity. You can start that in your own home, online. You don't have to go to the gym or a class. Just get started somewhere. 10 minutes a day.
Yeah, even honestly, even 5, you know, any amount will help. If you're a runner, just change it to quick sprints and then slow down. If you're a swimmer, change it to quick sprints. If you're someone who goes on a bike, same thing. Quick sprints, 30 seconds, slow it down, then speed it up. And if you're none of the above, honestly, 60 seconds of squats. And if you're not very good at squats, you can literally just sit down in a chair and stand up again as many times as you can in 60 seconds. Press ups, and again, if you're not very good at them, practice on your countertop, go sort of at an angle, and then just push up and down off your kitchen counter as many as you can. You can do it while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. You don't need to do loads.
Brilliant.
So
it's so amazing, and I could just keep asking more questions, but tell everybody, where can they find you? You have amazing, strong beliefs. Sustainability from within, age is a gift, stress and sleep, mind versus matter, strong, the new skinny, which we've talked about, hormones, strong and balanced, protein versus carbs, the skinny or fat, all that. Where can somebody get more information, get a consultation with you, etc.?
So for me directly, it's zanamorris.com. I was lucky enough to have an unusual first name attached to a good old...
I must admit.
No, it's not an Irish name. My mum was rebelling. She was rebelling.
It's like mine. Well, it's like you're Irish.
Yes, yeah. I think there were too many good Irish Catholic names going around, and I think our parents decided enough was enough.
That's it.
So zanamorris.com, and you can email direct through that as well. Strongnutrients.com will be for the nutrients and supplements, but again, emails and inquiries through that will always get their way back to me also. So both of those, my Instagram is Zana_Morris, and Strong Nutrients is literally just at Strong Nutrients, but all of them sort of loop back to me.
And we'll put all the links in when we repost this video on our social media. But I always end up my stories hosts with some quick fire questions. So in the office here, we put some together for you, Zana. So we've about 7, so bear with me.
Okay.
That was then cut back as well. So is there a special place in the world that you can go to that just brings you peace?
I think that's a lovely, lovely question. I think I have one for everywhere I go, if you know what I mean. So when I'm in London, my absolute favorite place is Holland Park, particularly a certain time of day, because it's got all these little pathways and these ways that it's just so calm. So I think even in the middle of a city, you can find that peace.
Love that.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, I'd be lying just looking over behind, I'm looking at the sea.
I realised you're actually still not.
I'm looking at little sailing boats in the sea, and I can't lie, I went for a walk around the corner yesterday, which sort of, it's a little winding road, and then you end up with a little peninsula, which is so, I mean, when I say calm, it is fabulous. And honestly, it's a beautiful question, that, because I think we all need it, and it almost doesn't matter where you are. It's good to find where it is, wherever you are.
Love that.
Yeah.
You could be anywhere, but you can find that peaceful place. So it doesn't have to be traveling to somewhere. You can find it even in the middle of a city. So that's beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. I find you just need a good tree to talk to, and that helps.
Yeah. So what about a strong supplement, the strong nutrients, one that you cannot live without, if you had to pick one?
Chill pill. Yeah. I've got a bit of a story like yours. Chill pill, definitely. And you can't be an entrepreneur without it.
Absolutely. Okay, next one, skipping or burpees?
I think skipping.
Oh,
skipping for me.
I am totally with you. I cannot stand burpees. Bath or shower?
That's a good question. Where I am here, they don't have a shower, but they've got the best bath ever, and the water streams through. And I've had heaven for the last week having baths. Beautiful. Normally I would have answered that shower, but actually I've almost changed my mind this week.
Oh, nice. Because I would have thought, the bath, because it helps relax the muscles, but actually, sometimes we don't have the time for a lovely, luxurious bath. So
exactly. No, I've been loving it.
Yeah. So your last beauty purchase?
That's a really good question. Now, if you hadn't used the word purchase,
okay,
I would have said, honestly, and I'm not just saying this, I loved. I have your stories now, and I love it. Absolutely. And I'm not just saying it because I'm on your live. They really are. And I'm fussy when it comes to perfumes.
Yeah. So which one, number one?
I've got number one, and I'm really loving it. And I'm seriously not just saying it because I'm on the live, just to be super clear. I'm a real stickler. I've been given things like that. I say like that before, you know, where you get gifted things.
Yes.
And if you don't like a perfume, it's very hard to wear it. Whereas, I'm wearing it.
Yeah.
So that's the top of my list of my favorite. Yeah.
Fabulous. And what about fashion purchase?
I think it was a straw hat. It wasn't very fashionable. Before that, though, I was thinking, if I think about this question, probably before that, my favorite, I got this really bright, vivid, orange polo neck jumper from Zara, which actually I really like. I'm afraid I do quite like Zara.
Yeah, so I do too. High Street, definitely. And I must say, H&M is looking really good at the moment. I'm a bit of fire as well. Okay, so one before the last. Top 3 things that you have found to live a fulfilled, healthy lifestyle. I think we've talked about them, haven't we?
I think we kind of have. I think the only thing, and you've mentioned that calm place. So for me, it's, very quickly, the nutrition, keeping the sugars down, getting the fats in, and all that intermittent fasting, the training, it's the short, high intensity. But the third thing, which we only sort of briefly mentioned there at the end, honestly, that equivalent of the calm space, I think that is huge, absolutely huge. And even if you don't get a lot of time in it, you need some time in it.
Absolutely, definitely. We all. And lastly, I do have to ask you about your scent story. And it's not all about promoting stories, our perfumes. It's about what is that smell that, that you would take you back in an instant to a certain place. Is there anything, any story or memory that you could share with us that just takes you right back? If you smell it, you go right back into a memory.
Funnily enough, I think I might have hit upon that at the very beginning when we said that, the health store game. There was a certain smell you got, which you don't get now in health stores. And I think it was in those days they used to do the foods, the nuts, the lentils. They had sort of the mix of things in there. And that combination, it wasn't one thing that had this smell, but it's almost that combination of foods. And that when you walked in, and I won't even say it was a nice smell, it was just a very particular smell. And that throws me back instantly.
But instantly. Because I'm exactly the same with that. My mum used to work in a health store years ago. Her visit, going in after school and popping in to see her, and you're hit with this smell. And it actually put me off supplements for so long, because I thought if you opened that box,
it would smell like that.
So I smell things so that I make sure it's. So you don't have it's not there anymore, but there was a very significant smell that
there was.
Yeah.
And funny enough,
but it wasn't nice.
Yeah, it wasn't that nice, but I think I associated it with intrigue. I think that's where because my mum would go in and buy the things, and I'd sort of just follow her in and look and kind of go, what's this for? What does that do? I'd be following her behind, a bit like a lost puppy kind of thing, checking everything out. So I think for me, it was sort of intrigue and possibility almost tagged to it.
Brilliant.
That's funny you should say that. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. I could have kept you for a lot longer. We've been on for an hour. I just want to thank you so much for joining us. And honestly, I will put all the information that you've shared here in our post today, so people can follow you, follow your supplement brand, and all that. You're just absolute joy, and it's such an honor to have you here. And I just wish you a lovely day. Enjoy the sea view. Enjoy this. And I'll see you very, very soon. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
If I can...